Hey guys, Coaster Erected. This is my top 10 B&M Hypers. There may be a little bit of variance in here based on what you think the best hyper is in, but this is what I believe is the basically top 10 B&M Hyper list. This is the international version. I'm not going to be including Fury or Leviathan in this because even though B&M considers them a hyper, I personally consider them as gigas. So, let's begin. At number 10, we have Raging Bull. I honestly don't really like this coaster. It's extremely trimmed. It's kind of fun. The first half is pretty fun, honestly. But the second half is extremely trimmed. You're not going that fast, and it's not that forceful or airtime heavy at all. I'm not going to say it's a bad coaster. It's one of the better ones at Great America, but there are definitely better hyper coasters. So on to number 9, we have Silver Star at Europa Park. This is I have not ridden this one obviously because I've never been to Europe myself, so or Europa Park for that matter. But just based on it, I've heard a lot that it's not the best B&M hypercoaster. It's on the weaker end, and it's not nearly as good as like Shambhala and the three Cedar Fair hypercoasters. So moving on to number 8, we have Apollo's Chariot at Busch Gardens, Williamsburg. This one, it may seem a little high up on the list in number count, but this is just based on my personal opinion, especially due to the fact that this has developed a pretty big B&M rattle, so that may contribute to a decent amount of roughness. It still has a crap ton of airtime and everything, but it's getting old. So, moving on to number 7, we have Goliath at Six Flags Over Georgia. It has a very good combination of forces and airtime. There's a lot of both in this ride, and it's a very nice ride, in my opinion. One of my personal favorites. So, moving on to number 6, we have Nitro at Six Flags Great Adventure. This is a very good hypercoaster as well, with a lot of forces and everything. Opened in 2000, and one of Six Flags Great Adventure's signature attractions, along with El Toro, and King Ka. So, look, it has a ton of airtime as usual, as per expected, with a B&M Hyper. So, moving on to number 5, we have Behemoth at Canada's Wonderland. This was the first of the Cedar Fair trio, so great coaster as usual. So, I'm saying so a lot, but lots of airtime, lots of fun, and it goes all out along the lake and everything. It just looks to be a great coaster. Moving on to number 4, we have Maiko at Seaworld Orlando. This is one of my personal most hyped for coasters of 2016. So I love how it interacts with the water and the lake and everything. It just looks to be a great coaster. Moving on to number 3, we have Intimidator at Carowinds. Lots of airtime. This is a very dedicated airtime ride. So, moving on, just on to number 2, we have Diamondback at Kings Island. Great coaster. Lots of not just airtime. It also has a lot of positive forces and a lot of intensity slash like twistiness, I guess. A lot of turns and banks and all that. Way more than Intimidator. Intimidator is like pretty much purely based on just straight up airtime, where Diamondback is also based on the turns and curves and the airtime, as well as having that awesome splashdown at the very end. So, on to number 1, we finally have Shambhala at Port Aventura. This is the largest B&M hypercoaster that's not in the Giga Coaster class, and it looks to be an awesome coaster. It also has a splashdown like Diamondback, and it interacts really well with the B&M looper there, Dragon Con. Both of them it's a really great coaster, lots of airtime as usual, and it is a fantastic coaster at Portaventura, one of the best coasters in Europe. So, thank you for watching. Make sure to like, comment, favorite, and subscribe, and as always, keep coasting.